came back, I wanted to do as much as I could to learn more about Israel. And I went to a stamp fair at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. And there was a stamp vendor there who had a lot of Israeli stamps. And I thought the stamps that had portraits, that had pictures of people, were really beautiful. So I bought a ton, not a ton, but a fair number of Israeli stamps that had pictures on it. So that was probably in about 1991. Then I moved to Boston and I brought the stamps with me. I was like, what am I doing with all these stamps? Then I moved to Texas for a year. Then I moved to Michigan. And all the while I kept these stamps with me. And I was like, what am I going to do with these stamps? And one day I said, you know, maybe I'll make like a, I don't know, I had this idea of something to make. And then at the same time, this is in 1995, I heard about this thing called the internet. And I said, what if I make a website? So I had, this was during Christmas break when I was on faculty at University of Michigan, and the campus was totally dead because everybody was away, but I had to stay and be on call. And I researched, how do you make a website? So I'd like to show you this website, and I'll share my screen now. Let's see, share. And so you should now be seeing a website called Famous Portraits on the Stamps of Israel. Do you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what I basically did, and this was like very rudimentary, I hosted this originally on the University of Michigan server, but then I left University of Michigan in 2012. I was able to sneak on their server for a few more years, but then I had to I had to redo everything. But there's some errors and some problems. So part of my motivation for doing this, if there's anybody who you know, if either you or anybody you know knows how to help with websites, send them my way. But the origin of this was I took the stamps, I scanned them, then I found biographies for each of the stamps. So let's take a look. We have, I categorized the stamps into famous women, political leaders, Zionists, builders of Israel, literature, rabbinical portraits, heroic lives, scientists, and performing arts. Then later I added these sections that I'll show you later that also need some work. But let's take a look. So for example, famous women, you open it up and there's a lot of stamps and you can click on each stamp and see who they are. So let's see, is there anybody here who knows any of these women? Debbie?
Golda Meir.
Golda Meir,
upper
okay, so
corner.
great. So you click on Golda Meir and you get a bigger version and you learn a little bit about. So Golda Meir was born in 1898 and died in 1978. She was born in Kiev, Russia, and was brought to Milwaukee as a child. She settled in Palestine in 1921, where she was active in labor Zionism. She held important posts in the Histadrut and then in the Israeli government. She became Israel's first female prime minister, I think only female prime minister, in 1969. She traveled to America often to raise funds and promote awareness of Israel. And there's a link to another website here. But yeah, so that's kind of how it works. So let's see, who else? Who else do you know about? Wow, Eleanor Roosevelt got an Israeli stamp. So, and I actually love these. So if you start looking at Israeli stamps, you'll see there are sort of some of the older ones that were from the 1950s that have a certain look that I think is really cool. So why was she on an Israeli stamp? Well, she was a very big supporter of Israel, including the Youth Aliyah Institution. So that's Eleanor Roosevelt. defender of human rights. And here's her name also, Eleanor Roosevelt in Hebrew. So it's a lot of cool things about stamps. How about Henrietta Zoll? Henrietta Zoll was daughter of a Baltimore rabbi. She was active in assisting Jewish immigrants to the United States. Then she visited Palestine in 1909, and she decided that health, sanitation, and welfare work were necessary prerequisites for Zionist development, and she organized Hadassah, the Women's Zionist Organization of America. In 1930s, she was made in charge of social welfare and was especially active after the fall of the Nazis in resettling Jewish youth in Israel as part of Youth Aliyah. So I'm guessing she actually, and she lived from 1860 to 1960, and I'm guessing she interacted with Eleanor Roosevelt because Eleanor Roosevelt was involved with Youth Aliyah. Let's take a look at some more modern stamps of women. This is Chaviva Raik, and she was, her story is very interesting because she was with a group of parachutists, and she was one of 4 members of the Haganah who were parachuted over Slovakia during World War II. She was born of working class parents in a small village in Slovakia. She came to Palestine in 1939 and joined a kibbutz. And then she volunteered to return to Slovakia. And she was part of something called Operation Amsterdam. On September 20th, Chaviva was parachuted from an American plane over the heart of the fighting area. She was 4th of a group of parachutists. The 4 saw as their main aim the organization into a fighting unit of Jewish youth who were still in Slovakia. But they discovered they were already fighting either with the Slovakian army or with partisans. So again, she was really a hero, and she unfortunately, their camp, so the Germans amassed strong forces to put down insurgents, and after heavy fighting, conquered their center on October 28, 1944. The parachutists, together with a group of members of Jewish youth movements from the capital, made their way into the hills and set up camp in the mountains. Their camp was attacked by the Germans, and many of the group were killed, including 3 of the parachutists. But she was really a hero that was remembered through this stamp. So again, a lot more that I'd encourage you to come back and look at. Of course, Anne Frank has a stamp from Israel, and we had the opportunity to visit Anne Frank's house in Amsterdam, as many of you have as well. Okay, so let's move to another category. Political leaders. So obviously Golda Meir falls in this category again. This is Mayor Dizengoff, and if you've been to Tel Aviv, you know there's a big street called Dizengoff Street. He was the mayor of Tel Aviv. And Chaim Weizmann and Yitzhak Rabin. This was actually the first new stamp I added after I made the website, because he was assassinated right as I was making this website, and then the stamp came out shortly after. So who else can I share with you? So again, I think it's interesting to learn more about the stories of how many of the political leaders got to where they are, or did what they did. Okay. Again, more heroes. Interestingly, I found 2 people who've had 2 stamps. Theodore Herzl had 2 stamps. One, again, probably different time periods. So I'm guessing this is earlier. This would probably be in the 60s. And I'm also guessing that this is the earlier currency. Does anybody know? So there was, now we're using the new Israel shekel. Previous, what was the currency? Does anybody know? Was it the lira? But if you go to Israel now, it's NIS. But this is an older currency. So that's why you're like, well, why is this 25 quote cents and 2 cents? I think there have been several changes in currency systems. But Theodor Herzl was the founder of political Zionism, originally from Budapest. And he convened the first Zionist Congress, negotiating with many world leaders. And here it says he died in 1904. So now I'm wondering, why does it say 1860 to 1960? That
Maybe that was celebrating the 100th anniversary of his birth.
it's possible, or of something else. So I'll have to get back to you on that one. Well, okay, you're right, because here on the stamp, it says 1860 to 1904. So I think I'm gonna accept that solution. Thank you.
The math
Well,
teacher and numbers.
What's that?
The math teacher and numbers.
Yeah. Who else had 2 stamps? Zev Jabotinsky. Zev Jabotinsky was a writer, orator, and Zionist leader. He was born in 1880 in Russia. He worked to develop Jewish self-defense units and to promote the revival of Hebrew. He formed the World Union of Zionist Revisionists when he felt the official Zionists were not aggressive enough against the British. He founded the Haganah. And again, for a complete review of the man, his life, and his politics, let's see if this link is still working. Yeah, some of the links are dead, so I need to remember. So that's the problem. I don't remember how I made this website. I need help. But Zev Jabotinsky, this is Burl Katznelson. He was a Palestinian labor leader. And I actually read the book My Life by Golda Meir, and she goes on and on about Burl Katznelson, and she just thought he did so much to help in the founding of Israel. And so this is an excerpt from her book. And as she said, unfortunately, he died in 1944, so he never saw the state of Israel. Who else? So again, these are some of the Zionists on the stamps of Israel. Literature. So this is really cool. I mean, in US stamps, how often do we honor poets? But a lot of these are poets. A lot of these are, people who've been really known in literature. So let's take a look at who you might know. Well, is there anybody recognizes right away?
Anne Frank again.
Anne Frank, okay. How about Shalom Aleichem? Shalom Aleichem was a Yiddish novelist and humorist, best known for creating the character of Tevye, the milkman from Fiddler on the Roof. And again, this is one of the old stamps that I think is really, really nice looking. And, oh, okay, so this says Mea Shana Leholadot. So I think that means 100th year anniversary of his birth. So he lived 1859 to 1916. And this is also a really old stamp. This is Eliezer ben Yehuda, who was the renovator of the modern Hebrew language. He was born in Lithuania. He went to Paris to study medicine. The following year, he began to publish articles advocating Jewish settlement in Palestine. He settled and taught in Jerusalem, where he fought for the acceptance of Hebrew as a spoken language. And Ben Yehuda published an extensive modern Hebrew dictionary, and probably many of us have used that dictionary. And he founded the Vad Halishon HaIvrit, or the Hebrew Language Council. So imagine that when people were first settling in Palestine, they were speaking many different languages, and somebody had to actually say, hey, why don't we revive Hebrew? And that was Eliezer Ben Yehuda. Interestingly about this stamp, it's in Hebrew, but it's also in French. So it says Renovateur de la langue hébraïque, for those of you who speak French. So again, I just love the colors and the shading. I think it's really attractive. How about, does anybody know who this is? One of the most famous, I'll give you some hints. This is one of the most famous Israeli poets. Another hint, his, I don't know if it's his granddaughter or his great-granddaughter appears on, has appeared on some sitcoms. Okay, this is Chaim Bialik,
Oh,
Hebrew poet, born in Ukraine. He studied and wrote in Odessa and other cities. He came to Tel Aviv in 1924 and opened a publishing house. He is also known as the creator of the Oneg Shabbat. And I don't know specifically, I think I'm gonna just guess that he's Mayim Bialik's great-grandfather. I don't know truly. Mayim Bialik, star of NBC's successful sitcom Blossom, but also she is now on, what's it called? Third Rock from the, no, not Third Rock from the Sun. What's that TV show called with?
Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory, okay.
yeah. She is an astrophysicist by training.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she comes from smarts. So
Indeed.
I'm going to read this poem because I think it's fun to read poetry now and then. This is called A Twig Alighted. A twig alighted on a fence and dozed. So do I sleep. The fruit fell, and what have I to do with my trunk? What with my branch? The fruit fell, the flower is already forgotten. The leaves survive. One day the storm will rage, they will drop to the ground dead. Afterwards, the nights of dread go on. No rest or sleep for me. Alone I thrash about in the dark, smashing my head against my wall. And again spring blossoms, and alone I hang from my trunk, a bare shoot without bud or flower, without fruit or leaf. So that's Chaim Bialik. Baruch Spinoza got a stamp. I'd also like to introduce you to Rivka Guber. And she was involved with absorption of immigrants. And then she ended up writing many books. She wrote a book called The Brother to the Torches of Lachish, the tradition of bequeath. And what's unique about her, and I was trying to find a picture, so she, again, just has a long history of doing some really cool things. She came to the Camp David Peace Treaty signing with Menachem Begin. She was one of the guests who came with Menachem Begin to the United States when he signed the Camp David Peace Treaty. So that's Rivka Guber. So again, I think every stamp has a really cool story if you look at it and try to figure out who these people are. Let's take one more from this set. This is Uri Grinberg, and he wrote primarily in Yiddish initially, but then he started writing in Hebrew. So, and he wrote poems. And that's Brisket the dog barking. Where else but in Israel would rabbis get their own stamps? So these are a few stamps. Let's see. Anybody recognize anybody? Well, the oldest stamp, as you can tell just from the coloring, is this one. And this is Maimonides, also known as Rambam. And he did a lot of stuff, this Rambam guy. He lived from 1134 to 1135 to 1204. And he was in Spain originally, and then he went to Cairo. He trained originally as a physician, and then he became a scholar of Jewish law. He wrote the Guide of the Perplexed. He also wrote a lot about tzedakah. So he definitely deserved a stamp. Let's see who else. Who's this guy? This guy looks a bit like a gangster. This is Rabbi Meir Bar Ilan. And those who know about, if the name Bar Ilan sounds familiar, that's because there is a university in Tel Aviv called Bar Ilan. And he joined the Mizrahi movement. What is the Mizrahi movement? And I should have looked that up. Debbie, make a Google and let us know. But he was I've heard of that, the president of the World Mizrahi Center. And as a young man, he joined the Mizrahi movement and voted against the Uganda scheme. Does anybody know what the Uganda scheme was?
The Uganda scheme was the world nations were willing to give the Jews Uganda as a Jewish homeland, and it was refused.
So more generally, the Mizrahi movement today is affiliated with the Religious Zionists of America. That's been an important source of guidance for the modern Orthodox Judaism movement. And let's see, they do a lot of fundraising. They have close ties with Yeshiva University. And it formed in 1924.
Okay. Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome, Samuel.
This one didn't come out. This is Abba Hillel Silver. And for whatever reason, again, this is one of the several repairs, but I'll show you. This is Rabbi Silver of Cleveland. So there are some American rabbis who've gotten. So what did he do? He was born in Lithuania. He was taken to the US as a child. He was the rabbi of the temple in Cleveland, Ohio. I think I actually went to a wedding there. And he also served as head of many Jewish and Zionist organizations. Silver was one of the chief Zionist spokesmen before the United Nations in the Palestine hearings of 1947. So I'll have to figure out why that doesn't show up. This is Isaac Herzog. He was born in Poland. Then he went to Leeds, and then he got a doctorate for his thesis, The Dyeing of Purple in Ancient Israel. He then became the chief rabbi. So very cool. This guy is Rabbi Kook. People thought he was a real kook, but he actually was a very bad cook. Okay. let's go to another area, heroic lives. And this is just a lot of really cool people who've done cool things. And this is, I don't know why this one didn't work. I feel awful because this is supposed to be, wait, I'm gonna have to remember who this is. Who was the one from Sweden? That didn't come out.
Raoul Wallenberger.
Raoul Wallenberg. So this is supposed to be the Raoul Wallenberg stamp. And for whatever reason, I need to fix this. So this is an old stamp. This is Baron Edmund de Rothschild. Again, I love these old stamps. I think they're really cool looking, but it says Edmund de Rothschild in Hebrew. And the Rothschild family have for over 2 centuries formed a financial dynasty without parallel, either in Jewish or general history. Edmund played the most significant role of any Rothschild in Jewish history. His support of Jewish colonization of Palestine came to dominate his life. He donated huge sums in purchasing tracts of land and helped settlers came to their rescue by providing agricultural instruction and planting vineyards. Baron Rothschild's memory is revered today through Israel for the enormous and crucial help that he provided. And interestingly, there's grapes, which kind of represents the vineyards he helped plant. Let's see. This is a stamp that remembers the Dreyfus affair, where Captain Dreyfus was convicted of treason and unfairly tried. So this stamp, I don't know what year, this is from 1994. This stamp was issued. Again, another older stamp. Janusz Korczak. After spending many years working as a director of an orphanage in Warsaw, he refused freedom and stayed with his orphans when the institution was sent from the ghetto to the Treblinka extermination camp. So again, just somebody who is remembered through a stamp. Enzo Serini was born in Italy, came to Israel in 1927, and like Chaviva Reik that we learned about before, he was also a hero, and he was a parachutist who unfortunately was captured by the Germans. So a lot of people, obviously there are a lot of people to remember, and stamps is a way for people to live on. Okay, scientists. Anybody recognize anybody?
Albert Einstein.
Yep.
Beat me to it.
So Albert Einstein, again, one of these older, very classic looking stamps. And I don't want to read this, but again, if you go there, you can click on the stamp and learn a little bit more about Albert Einstein. Well, there's a dog about to come in to join us. Albert Kachalski-Katzer was a macromolecular, somebody who studied big old molecules. He was one of the founders of the Israel Academy of Science and Humanities. And he was killed in a terrorist attack at Ben Gurion Airport in 1972. So he was only 59 years old, but made significant contributions to polymer research. Giulio Rocca. He was on the faculty of Hebrew University. And Saul Adler, who he did a lot of research into, I can't even say this, leishmaniasis, which is a parasitic disease. So his specialty area was parasitology. Performing arts, recognizing many of the musicians. So this is Leonard Bernstein got a stamp. Let's see. A local boy from Boston. Let's see, Zelda Schneerson Mishkovsky. She was a teacher. This is Arik Einstein, who was a pop singer in Israel. He was nicknamed the Voice of Israel. He had 34 albums. So I think, has anybody heard the music of Arik Einstein? Kind of like the Elton John of Israel in his day. So again, just very cool to look through. Here's a stamp that has two artists together, Bronislaw Huberman and Arturo Toscanini.
Tuscanini.
So Huberman, he was with the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra and as a musician, and then Toscanini, he inaugurated the Israel Philharmonic as its first conductor. I didn't know that. So those are the different categories. Then I started to make a couple areas, great thinkers and diplomats, where I took, this is a stamp that has 6 people who were in 1997 put on one set of stamps, and Emil Durkheim was associated. So you click on this, and I still need to add a little bit more biography, but this is work to come. This section here, diplomats. Let's see if this ended up working. This also these are righteous Gentiles from around the world who helped Jews during the Holocaust. And again, also, wait, let me see if okay, wait, yep, if I widen this, I don't know if people can see, but if you click on this, it gives a biography. So Giorgio Perlasca from Italy, Aristides de Souza Mendes from Portugal, Charles Lutz, Sempo Sugihara from Japan, and Sulahattin Ulkamen from Turkey. So if you click on that, it gives you a close-up. Sempo Sugihara was the Japanese consul in Kovno, Lithuania. And again, during the Holocaust, against his government's orders, he issued 6,000 Jews Japanese visas within a period of 19 days and allowed the refugees to enter Japan, from whence they continued either on to Shanghai or later to Canada, Australia, or South America. He saved about 10,000 Jews in total. He was a great humanitarian who risked demotion or worse for his actions. He had never seen Jews before, but he kept in mind all the times the samurai maxim that even a hunter cannot kill a bird that flies to him for refuge. Even at the train station on his way to Berlin in 1940, he was stamping papers for a crowd of desperate Jews. In 1945, Sempo Sugihara was dismissed from the Japanese Foreign Ministry. However, his courage was recognized posthumously when Japan apologized for his dismissal and applauded his deeds. He was also honored as Japan's first righteous among the nation. When asked what reward he would choose, Sugihara chose to have his son educated in Israel.
Hi, Sam, it's Elaine. I wanted to know if Lutz was the one from Hungary, because that name sounds like the one that my mother-in-law and father-in-law got papers from.
So let's see. Yeah. He was a Swiss diplomat who is credited with saving the lives of 62,000 Jews in Budapest. He stood up to the Nazi authorities and issued thousands of protective letters to the Jews. He also claimed diplomatic immunity for numerous protective houses he established around the city of Budapest.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
so
were in the glass house because of the papers that they got from him. Saved their lives.
Wow. Yeah, so he's got, and here, hopefully this still works. This was a link. Again, I really need to update these sites. It looks like it's not going, but I'm trying to click on some of these other links. So this website has details of his monument in Budapest.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you for sharing that. And Giorgio Perlasca, he worked for an Italian importing firm in Budapest. So like I said, I hope you'll, original name of this website, or originally I had it on University of Michigan. I got a new host for it a couple of years ago. And like I said, I have all these files that somehow I took a few days and reloaded on a new server for this company. And every year I just pay some money to redo it, but I don't remember how to fix it. So if you know anybody who has some technology on doing for the web, send them my way and we'll work together to fix this up. But yeah. So I encourage you to visit. If you just Google famous portraits on the stamps of Israel, you can look up. And the other thing, you can just, if you want to just see a list of people, you can then scroll through and yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, I got to fix the Raoul Wallenberg one. For some reason, it got disconnected, but yeah, like you can just David Ben-Gurion, you can just see a big version of the stamp. I will say that initially, I actually did get some awards, and they would send you the picture to put on my website. And I have a few other links, but anyway, I hope you found this interesting. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
So if anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourself or write it in the chat group and I can read them. I'm monitoring it.
Sam, do you only collect new stamps, or have you collected any of the ones that have been used?
Mostly new, but I would put used ones up too. I actually have a few that I just scanned and I need to put up, but yeah, no, I'll take anything, but mostly, like I said, I like the ones that have pictures of people. Although I do have a stamp that I really like from Israel that encourages people to take care of their teeth. I don't know where I put it, but it says in Hebrew, take care of your teeth.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. All right, thanks everybody for joining in.
Yeah, Sam
Hope
again.
to see you all soon.
Okay, there's more coming. Check your calendar. There's a lot. I've
Thank you, Sam.
scheduled a bunch of classes upcoming for the next few weeks. So there's some exciting stuff. Thank you. Thanks, Sam.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Judy.
you, Sam.
You,
Thank
bye-bye. Thanks.